Welcome back
What's going on, guys?
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
Welcome back to our podcast. Is it crazy or is it God?
yeah,
Also referred to as IICIIG, which is the first letter of most of
yes,
those words. um, so we are back again for more Bible fun.
yes, yeah, man.
If you haven't watched our other a couple of podcasts so far, just want to let you know real quick recap of what we do here. We laugh, we joke, we read the Bible. So basically we're just taking excerpts, right? We're on a Bible plan. So we are reading along together. Every
Yeah,
morning we read around maybe 2 to 3 verses, and then we just come back and tell you what we got from it. And we hope that
we talk about it.
we talk about it every time we read, and we go back a lot and be like, is that what that means, or what did that mean?
Yeah,
Right. So we do that every day, 4 days a week. In the morning we wake up and do that, and then we come to you every week and just kind of let you know what our thoughts are, in hopes that you're reading along. Now if you follow us on Twitter, you'll see every week around Sunday or Monday we'll tweet out
the reading for the week.
what we're reading that week.
Yeah.
So if you read along with us, and then you get to watch the Monday when the podcast comes out, or listen, however you are enjoying this podcast, whether you watch or listen, you can know exactly, and you can be caught up. And as we're having this conversation, we would like to have this interaction with each other, because I think it's a great thing to talk about. It's the Bible. Like, why not talk about it? Yeah. So yeah, that's just a quick recap of who we are, what we're doing here. I'll jump in, or I'll ask you to jump in, and just ask you, how's your week been?
Pretty hard on myself. I need to allow some grace.
Some self grace.
Yeah, just pushing myself a little hard. Waking up, not waking up at the time that I want to wake up, but still waking up early and doing things. And sometimes I need lesson of the week is patience and accountability. So next week I'm still gonna try to go hard. I just can't. I just have to allow some grace for when I don't accomplish everything. But I also have to keep myself accountable, right?
Yeah.
So that's how my week went. You know.
That's what's up.
How was your week?
My week was terrible. No, I'm joking. Just laughing because, like,
After we read Job.
One of the
See
things
that,
that was funny to me was, okay, we're going to get into that. But it's like, yeah, I'm having a great life. Like, I'm not a slave. All the ancestors and people who came before us, listen, we are in a pandemic, but, thank God everybody I know who's gotten it has recovered. Yeah. That is a blessing. And so it's funny that he said that, because that's one of my things. Man. When people ask me how I'm doing, I think to myself, there's a difference between the truth and the polite answer. Mm-hmm. And so the polite answer is when somebody asks you how you're doing, they're, in my opinion, expecting to hear, oh, I'm great. You know what I mean? And that might not always be the case, but that's not sort of the appropriate response when asked that question. So I use it whenever somebody asks me, oh, how are you today? Or how are you doing? I use it as a self-check time. Like, Faith, are you okay? You know what I'm saying? Whatever it is that you think is a problem, aren't you still alive? Are you bleeding? Is there an emergency? So anyway, especially this week, as we read chapters 1 through 20 of Job.
Yeah.
I literally, some of the things are so graphic that my skin was crawling a little bit, because I was just like, man, and then it kind of put me in fear at one point, because I was like, man, like, I hope nothing like this ever happens to me. But it's also just the fact that we're reading this, and we haven't gotten to the end of it yet, but we only read 1 through 20. Yeah. The fact that we're reading this and we kind of know what happened later, it's just a testament that you can get through anything if you just remember that God is in control. So anyway, you asked me how my week was. Yeah. I can honestly say I had a fabulous week. I had a great week. I mean, literally reading this was a part of that, because all of the little things that normally sort of get on my nerves or whatever at work or with other things in my life, I just was able to take it on the chin, like, oh, you know what? I'm doing better than Job, so I think I'm all right. You know what I'm saying? So that was definitely a benefit of reading this week.
Things in perspective.
It was perspective. I mean, I had a great week at work. We have a lot of work that we're doing right now, but we're working together as a team. I started to just kind of see people different because we're going to get into this too, but you just never know what somebody's going through. And so I just tried to keep that in mind when I'm complaining about things that are happening, just to keep in mind that they could be suffering in their own way. Maybe they don't have boils and stuff in their skin, but they could be suffering somehow, and I'm not privy to that information. And so let me just be kind to people with the assumption that everybody's going through something. So
right, or sometimes
we got all these notifications going on. Right. My phone does that all the time because I set all these reminders, but I'm sorry. Let me put my phone on silent.
It's all good, guys. It happens.
Okay, go ahead.
It's life. So, okay, here we go again. But
what?
Just trying to stop saying, guys.
Oh, yeah.
I do it.
It happens, man.
The more that
we're in here.
Yeah, I think the more that I talk, the less I'll say it, the more I'm cognizant of it. But sometimes people may not realize. They just might complain and not realize how good they really have it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why gratitude is so important.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody, I don't know if everybody knows it, but Job is I think it's a highly discussed chapter.
Oh yeah, like in the chapters of the most commonly discussed chapters. Yeah, all right, let me start out there with a little bit about Job. Yeah. So he's from Uz. I guess it's called Uz or Uz. UZ. It's called UZ. And some of this information I got from some websites. I got some information from Christianity.com, ThomasNelsonBibles.com, and I also found something on Wikipedia about the first about this. It's the first of the poetic books in the Old Testament. So as you're reading this, right, it's a book of, it's kind of like a book of poetry. Like it's poetry. You know what I'm saying?
Job is supposed to be a book of poetry?
Yeah, and I tried to figure out who was writing it, who was writing the chapter, or who was writing the book. And I couldn't find a definitive answer. I found some things pointing to the idea that maybe Moses wrote it, but again, even that source was like, we're unsure. And I think they eliminated the fact it couldn't have been written by Job, at least not in its entirety, because they speak of his eventual passing, and you can't write that you died if you died. Yeah. But we don't know that. But he was known, Job was, as a righteous and godly man, so blameless and upright. A man who feared God and shunned evil. And that's in Job 1:2, chapter 1, verse 2 of Job. Another thing that I found out, because I did a slight bit of research, and when I do research, I like to find at least 3 sources, even more if I can, just because different sources might say different things. And so I want to get to... I feel like I'm rambling, but I want to get to make sure that I have the majority of the sources saying the same thing before I just look one thing up and be like, oh, this is the truth. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I pretty much trust Wikipedia, but I had never heard of some of the things that I had looked up. It's good to just, you know what I'm saying? And then what makes
multiple
sense.
Multiple sources, yeah.
Just whatever makes sense. And we're going to get into something when we start talking about the chapter itself, where something that I looked up, it made sense to me, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to go with that because that makes sense based on what I read. Okay, he's a righteous and godly man. He was obviously greatly tested. Another thing that didn't necessarily say it in here like this, but this is what we would say these days, is that Job wasn't no slouch. He was rich. He was considered to be rich. He had 10 children, many servants. And I mean, that's probably a real indicator of how you're doing economically, is you have people that work for you.
He had a lot of land.
He had to have a lot of land because he had livestock numbered in the thousands.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you had a bunch of sheep and a bunch of ox, whatever he had, right, you got to have land.
You know, their livestock back then was kind of like stocks are now.
Yeah. Livestock. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, because
you would barter and trade for that. You could use it to eat. You could use it to make clothes.
Yeah.
Same. I'm not saying you could You could do that for stocks. You can always pull out your money. You can always put in.
Trade it.
You can always
What's
trade
interesting is that but
transfer it. Yeah.
Money is used to get the things that you need, and where livestock is the thing that you need. It's either food or clothing, or you know what I mean. Not all in its entirety, but I could see that connection. That's a really good connection. I like that. But so I wanted to point that out because that wasn't something I was necessarily thinking about as we were reading it. But I did know that he had servants, and I did recognize that people were coming to him telling him that hey, your kids died, you're whatever. Anyway, let's get into this. Another thing that we're going to get to, but I wanted to point out, is that his kids used to have lavish feasts on their birthday, his sons, and they would invite their sisters. And Job would do, and this is actually in there, we're going to go over this, he would do a sacrifice, a burnt offering for each of them afterwards, because he felt like, maybe they sinned and
I think the burnt, that is like offering to God,
I looked up a little bit about burnt offerings. We're not going to really get into that right now, but that joke was wild. I looked up some photos, which were paintings. They're not real pictures, but just the contraptions that I saw were kind of wild. Like these days, that would be probably considered animal cruelty.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I believe it.
But then it was okay. So from what I found, people used to give offerings to the Lord as a sacrifice and as almost like a cleansing. Okay, we're burning this animal or whatever in its entirety, not just to eat, right? But offering it to God as a way of gaining acceptance from God, right? So anyway, we talked about
that early since like Abel.
Yeah, the offerings to God, right? The altar. Yeah, we're not talking about Cain and Abel this time.
Boy.
Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, we already been talking for 13 minutes.
Job 1.
Job 1. This is... Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, listen. One thing that stood out to me that is very relevant to this day.
No, you're going to talk about something that's in Job 2. Job 2
too? Job 2. Oh, yeah, Job
okay,
1.
all right, let's get there.
No, Job 1, I do like how he was getting up early and praised God. That's the thing that...
Yeah.
I think we should do. People do it too. A lot of people do it. And I don't know the Bible verse, but he says, bring your request in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
I know you talk about
that a
lot.
That's
but Job, he was a righteous man, and he praised God. And no, it wasn't Job 1.
No, but I'll tell you, you're talking about Job 2 too, where you're talking about the devil. Let me just go over Job 1 real quick. So basically, Job has sons and daughters. It kind of it describes who he is, kind of what we just went over.
Yeah.
And then there's a part where he did say, where it is written that he would rise early in the morning. So his sons would have these parties on their birthday, basically a birthday party where they would eat. It was a feast, right? And they would drink. And then Job would get up early in the morning after those days to sort of do a burnt offering for them, for each of them, to kind of cleanse for them to God, and kind of trying to not erase their sins, but just offer up to God that, they were wilding last night, but like, please still bless them or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it is in Job 1 too. They just jump right in where the Lord and Satan. Oh, I'm sorry. That is in Job 1. Excuse me. I do apologize.
It's crazy. It's in both.
Well, it's probably repetitive because it's relevant.
It's very relevant.
Okay, so I'll let you get into that. But God and Satan started having a conversation about Job, and Satan is basically saying, of course he praises you because he has everything, right? You blessed him and you gave him all this stuff, so of course. But what if he didn't have all that stuff? And then he would just definitely curse you, right? And so, but when the Lord said to Satan, this is Job 1:7.
Yeah, so let's be honest. God and Satan talk, guys. It says it in the Bible. I don't know how often they do, but they probably do. I don't know how often. I don't know if they, call each other up.
I mean, yeah, and often to us, it's like a human word.
Right.
You know
often
what I mean?
It's
like,
human, but they do.
Yeah, it happens.
It happens. Just like how Satan tried to tempt Jesus. You know? They know of each other.
Yeah.
So, this is the funny thing. God asked Satan he said, where do you come from? Satan said, just walking on earth to and fro. Satan has nothing to do, guys. He doesn't have a job. He's not out here going to work. He does have a job. He's the principalities. His job is to make us have probably negative thoughts. Right? Now, some men are naturally evil. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you'll sometimes discount yourself. You'll think like, oh, I should do this, and it's not good. That's possibly, especially if you're a believer that reads the Bible, believes in Jesus Christ, it's a high probability, 99.9% that's Satan. Because he has no job. His job is to walk to and from the earth. And just mess with you. And just mess with you. Whether it's, if you have an addiction, make you drink more. Whether it's self-doubt. All the negative thoughts, it's Satan. Because he's just walking around, man.
So, listen, I don't think all, right?
Not
but
all.
I think a majority or like a fair amount, right?
Yeah, not all.
And I was listening to...
He walks around. Just remember
he's just walking around idly. He definitely said that to God,
yeah.
which we found to be interesting because we're like, why does he say this? And apparently he said it twice.
I'm just on the couch.
I'm just walking around.
I'm just staying on the couch.
From where have you come? Then Satan answered the Lord, from roaming around on the earth and from walking around on it. He's just roaming around.
Just remember that, guys, when you think that Satan is just in, you know how they have that cliche saying Satan is just in hell. No, he's walking around on the
earth. And so here's another thing, because I had just listened to this on that video I was watching from Jenny Penton, and she was saying how you shouldn't go to bed angry, and God says you shouldn't go to bed angry. I haven't come across that verse yet, but I do believe that it's in there. And you hear these things, and you're like, yeah, but I don't need to worry about that, right? Because I've definitely gone to bed angry before, and not even just like at you or something, but it's just in life. She was like, oh, she made such a great point. She was like, that's a wonderful entry point for Satan to come in and mess with you, right? Because you gotta think like you're unguarded. You're not even aware of your thoughts in your sleep. Your subconscious is taking over. So that's the perfect time for him to go and do his work, right? So it's like that's just one thing. But as you mentioned, he's just roaming the earth, looking for something to get into. Oh, let me go over here to this guy, right? Yeah. So I feel like that's something to keep in mind because it's something that we don't really, think about that much. No. It's like we're just going along, thinking our thoughts. Mm-hmm. And for the first time in a long time, last week, I recognized that I hadn't sat in silence in a while. It's like everything I do, I need to either have the radio on, some music, or have something playing in the background. And as I sat there in silence, I recognized how loud my thoughts are.
Loud noise,
and how mean I am to myself. Yes. And it could just be me. It could be me repeating after Satan in my mind, right? Yep. But it's like with all of this noise that I normally have going, it's not doing me any good. I need to have some time where I'm just silent. And a lot of times I think the best time to do that is, we talk about meditation, but after we pray. Yeah. I can't remember who it was that we were listening to that time, but it was a suggestion saying, it might have even been Earl Nightingale. I don't know. But it was like, after you pray, you should sit in silence and wait to listen from God. Because prayer is not a one-way street, right?
Let's just switch it, dude. Because I meditate and pray, so I'll switch it.
I mean, you could do whatever works for you, but I think that after prayer,
is a perfect time to
you should just be silent.
Yeah.
because that is an opportunity for you to hear from God. Like, you can hear from God all day. You can hear from God and right before you're about to do something, you know what I'm saying, and change your mind. But I think it's interesting how we go about saying a prayer and then going about our business, right? Oh, God, please help me through this day. Thanks, bye. Right? And it's just like, maybe he has a response for me. And so I think that's interesting. Anyway, we got off course there.
Yeah, because sitting in silence is it's difficult at first, but it's the way to go.
These days, it's become more difficult.
Yeah. Put your phone down in the morning.
Man, I am guilty.
Put your phone down.
My phone is a source of...
I left mine upstairs the other morning.
I've been really good about that. And I'm sorry if you're one of my friends and you've been texting me. Even my sister and mom have experienced this recently in the last couple of weeks. I've been really intentional about leaving my phone either face down and on silent.
Yeah, because I texted you the other day. You didn't text me back.
Well, I was probably right here in the house. So anyway, he likes to do that. We do that to each other. Text each other. But the thing is, being without your phone is a natural state. But it's not the norm these days. Being without noise is a natural state. If you went out into the woods or you went out on the beach or whatever, right, like by yourself in the mountains, you could hear some sounds of nature. But I would almost even consider that silence too.
It is.
Right? So, but how often are we in that natural state?
And
I don't think...
We're going to get right back to Job. I'm going to say this last
Yeah, we're
point.
all off on a tangent.
It's okay, guys. You're here. Right? Here's the thing. Silence helps you gather your thoughts. And nowadays, like you said, it's almost silence is a must, and sometimes we wonder if it's kind of gotten away from us because the noise, the more noise, I'm wondering if the more Satan is present, because we're not praying more, because we're not meditating more, and that's what I've been trying to do in the morning. And the other day I left my phone. I usually would have my phone near me in the morning time, but Faith will tell you I'll have it face down. So the other day I just left it upstairs. I came down and did my workout, prayed, no TV on. I don't do no TV till maybe till after we read the Bible about 7. Then I'll turn on and get ready for work, and I'll eat my breakfast and coffee and watch the news or TV. But the silence is, when we read the Bible, we don't have nothing on.
No, because we need all our focus. You know, and some of these things are so
it's huge,
detailed, and some things are written in
Old English.
Old English, yeah. So okay, so
all right, let's go back.
Let's get back into Job. So we were in 1 actually. This is where
they talk to each other. Satan
God and Satan were having a conversation about Job, and God was like, "You can, all right, take stuff away from him, but don't touch him." Yeah. Right? That was the first thing. Yeah. Right? And then then we go through this whole thing from Job 113 all the way down to 113 through 122.
Yeah, that's when he's...
Okay, so here's what happened.
Yeah.
He basically got all this stuff to start getting taken away from him. Right? So the Sabians attacked and stole his oxen and donkeys and killed some of his servants. Fire fell from the sky and burned up the sheep in Job 116. The Chaldeans, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this stuff correctly, but they stole Job's camels, killed more of his servants. All of this stuff happened, and God allowed it to happen. God allowed Satan to have that stuff happen because that's what their agreement was.
Lost. Oh, you keep going. Oh, yeah.
Then here's an interesting part. Yeah. Job got up. And all these people kept coming to him and telling him, like, "Hey, what was the thing they kept saying?" Because I was like, "Lord Jesus, yeah, they killed his kids." Messenger came and said, "Yeah, these messengers kept coming to him and saying, the oxen are plowing, the donkeys are feeding beside them, the Sabians attacked." Okay, then somebody else came and said, "Oh, and the fire of God, lightning is falling from the heavens, has burned up the sheep." While he was still speaking, another messenger came and said, The Chaldeans formed bands and made raids of camels. So while he was still speaking, someone came and said, this is Job 118, your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house, and suddenly a great wind came from across the desert and struck the four corners of the house. It fell on them and they died. I alone have escaped to tell you. They kept saying that. I didn't understand that.
Back to back.
And I alone have escaped to tell you. In my version, which is the Amplified version, it says, while the messenger was still speaking, right? Another messenger came. So you imagine somebody's talking to you, and then they get interrupted by another person. Oh, this also happened. Oh, this also happened. And using your sort of analogy with the stocks, right? So you're thinking Job is rich. So it's like somebody came and told him, oh, we're talking about livestock. Oh, your business, the building that you were running your business in, right, is done, right? Somebody came and robbed you. Oh, also, stocks are down. You're out. You're out. You have no money. Also, while that person's talking, the next person comes and says, oh, your Porsche got repoed. Oh, another person comes and says, oh, your kids died. Right? All this stuff happened. And you know what he did?
Yeah.
He tore off his robe, shaved his head, and fell to the ground and worshiped.
Yep.
So he blessed God even after he lost all his stuff.
Which,
and his kids.
To be honest, that is commitment to God. That's a bottom line commitment. Man, losing all of that. And it's not like he lost it over years. It was like you lose everything in one day. One sitting.
I mean, like while the person was still talking.
Your fortune, your livestock. It was all good just a week ago, man.
Yeah.
For real, man. And then after all that, he gets up and praises God. Gets down and praises God. I don't even think I would do that. I'm gonna be honest. I would cry. I don't know.
I don't know what I would do.
I'm not gonna shave my head and praise God, but I might after reading this.
Yeah, so I did look up too. What is the meaning of shaving one's head?
Yeah.
And I found a couple of things. It's I guess a signifier for trauma, brutality, loss of individuality. Wow. The yogis shave their head to disconnect from the world. So I don't know what was in play, but it's like he took off his robe, he dropped down, he shaved his head. It's like that was some sort of some sort of something. Like
maybe starting something new, maybe or starting over, maybe.
That's the thing that made sense to me because I know as women, I can't speak for all women, but when we switch up our hair, or I remember when I cut all my hair off at one point in my life, I didn't shave it, but I cut my hair off because I felt like I was making a fresh start. Yeah. Like, so some people can relate, some people can't, but there was this time where I had taken out a weave and I caught a glimpse of my natural hair because before then I had spent years and decades just perming my hair. Mm-hmm. And because I had this weave in and I took it out and I had maybe an inch and a half of new growth and I was able to see the curl pattern of my natural hair and I was just like, you know what? Done with this, right? So I cut it off. But I could identify with the idea of cutting your hair off as like a cut off of the past or something, right? Yeah. And almost even if with some of the movies that I've seen in more recent years where somebody goes and shaves their head, it's like they're almost going to battle, right? Yeah. Like, okay, now it's real. I can't be concerned about my hair.
Oh yeah.
Those are just my take on it.
Okay. This is not a good reference, but we're just talking about bald head starting over. One of my favorite movies, Fight Club, he shaves his head. He started becoming a different person, which is it's a rabbit hole each in his own. You could go back to The Matrix with Neo. He has a shaven head too. It's a lot of movies that you shave. And it's starting over. So I'm thinking he shaved his head and was like, I'm gonna start over. I'm taking everything from you, and that's it.
The one example that I was thinking of was that Demi Moore movie when
Demi
she was
Moore.
a Navy SEAL. What was
Yeah.
the name of that? I don't
G.I. Jane.
G.I. Jane.
That's another one.
That was a very powerful point in the movie because she had. I would consider. I mean, that was because she had been going through all of this stuff, and they were calling her names. She was the only woman that was in that Navy SEAL program, and she. I guess really it had to do with a lot. She didn't want them treating her differently. Like she's this beautiful woman with this long hair.
Yeah.
And so she was just like, no, I'm going to be like one of the guys. But I remember the powerful point in the movie where she went to go get her head shaved and the barber wasn't even there or something. And she was just like, I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
Right? I believe, I might be mistaken, but I think that's how it went. But anyway, that was, so I'm taking away that the significance of him shaving his head was a new start or just kind of like a letting go of, oh my gosh, I don't know what's happening. Let me just prepare for whatever this is. Okay. Right? Okay.
Job 2 is pretty quick.
Job 2 is pretty quick. You want to go through and say?
Yeah, man. Once again, Satan is, God asks, where did you come from? Just walking to and from the earth. Like, how does that, listen to that, guys. It's not chilling. The devil's not chilling. He's walking to and from earth. Actually, every time the devil is mentioned, he's walking to cause something not good. He tried to tempt Jesus. The serpent.
Yeah.
He's always back to the serpent moving. For sure. He's always moving. Remember that.
So then him and God have this conversation. God is basically like, see my boy Job, he's doing all right. And he's like, but physical. He says, skin for skin. Yes, a man will give all he has for his life, but put forth your hand now and touch his bone and flesh and severely affect him, and he will curse you to your face. Yep. This is what Satan says to God. Yeah. So then God says to Satan, all right, touch him but spare his life. Yeah. Like, we're going to test this out type of thing. Or you'll see, because God already knows what's happening. Yeah. So behold, he's in your hand, only spare his life. So at that point, right, that's different from the original instruction, which is do whatever you want to do with his life, right, with his things and his relationships, but don't touch him. Yes. Now God is giving Satan permission to touch him, but you can't kill him, right? So
don't kill him. Yeah.
He went on to do some. He basically put boils. Job had boils and painful sores. It says from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head.
That's great.
And he took a piece of broken pottery to scrape himself. And I would just imagine how uncomfortable, right? It just makes my skin, even thinking about it, it's just hard to just even think about. And then that brings me back to why I had such a good week, because I think about all the little stupid stuff I complain about, right? And I gave you some examples about the things that we complain about present day humans, especially Americans, right? Oh, I gotta stand in this line. And you know how I feel about lines. Yeah. A line, we're not even going to go into my theory about lines. I just feel like, take your place, right? Everybody here was here before you, so you are the line. So we can't be complaining about lines. Another thing we complain about all the time is our cell phone service, right? Oh, I don't get any service here. Or, I don't have internet. Where's the Wi-Fi? That's like the biggest complaint, especially coming from the hospitality industry. Yeah. That was probably the biggest complaint that was non-service related, right? Where's the Wi-Fi? What's the Wi-Fi code in here? You guys don't have Wi-Fi? Like, lady.
Mind you, 15 years ago, there was no Wi-Fi. Right?
Right. Yeah. But now, you better have Wi-Fi or you don't.
You better have Wi-Fi.
You know what I mean? And these little things, I'm sure I'm not trying
God forbid, what did we do when we had dial-up? We had to go to a restaurant. Maybe talk to each other.
Talk to each other without your phone? What?
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. I'm only bringing up those as just these petty little things that we complain about. Yeah. I'm sure. Listen, we also have real stuff in our lives that could be complained about or that is uncomfortable. Yeah. But just like all those things, it's not really that important, right? So, or if it is, we have to take understanding of what we're reading here in Job and know that God is with us the whole time.
Yeah.
So as painful as it might be, it's probably not as painful as what Job was going through. And even if it might be, just clinging to God and knowing that here's an example of someone who went through it, right? And it's lost all his family, lost all his stuff, all his lifestyle, and he even went on, and this gets really graphic, to talk about how his wife was repulsed by his breath, and how the servants, he had to call them more than once because they weren't willing to be his servants, as attentive as they were. Speaking of Job's wife, when we move into chapter 3, so this is where we are, right? So it's actually not even in chapter 3, sorry.
It's 2, yeah.
His wife, who's lunching, says to him, "Do you still cling to your integrity and your faith and trust in God without blaming him? Curse God and die." What? I don't even like saying that out loud.
Yep.
And he said to her, what did he say to her?
He said that...
This is Job 2:10.
Yeah, he said, "You speak as one of the foolish women speak. Shall we indeed accept good from God, and shall we not accept the adversity?" And so he's basically saying we got to take the good for the bad. We can't always run to God when everything's going good, right? It's
or vice versa.
Or vice versa, right? We can't always run to God when things are going bad. It's, you gotta take the good with the bad. That's life. That's what to me. That's what he's saying.
I got that too.
Yeah, we accept the good from God. Yes, God is blessing with a new car, but you crash your car. What, God? Why has this happened to me? Well, you gotta take the. It's life.
It's life.
It's life. It happens. So you gotta accept it.
And then also, this is a good example of everything really kind of being temporary things.
Okay.
Things just being temporary, and not every storm is going to last, and not every blessing is going to last. Mm-hmm. So you really just have to just be having that relationship with God and just seeking Him and His instruction. That's kind of like what I was getting, because one of the things that I noticed is that as we move into these next few chapters, and Job starts to say things, one thing that I noticed that didn't happen until much later is that he didn't really, and I guess it was, you had made this point, because he has the same thing he said to his wife, we got to accept the good with the bad. I noticed in the beginning that he wasn't asking God to take away his pain. And I thought that struck me as interesting, because I was like, I would be the first one down on my knees like, God, please alleviate this, please. And I noticed that he didn't do that. And I guess it was because of his thoughts of like, oh, I'm a G. This is what you have for me. This is what I'll do. But he was speaking about what pain he was experiencing, about the discomfort. And so, okay, I would like for you to then talk about Job 3 and... Yeah, because now his friends are there, right? Yeah, his friends came to comfort him.
Right. So after 3, then it gets to... From 4, I think, to 20. It's a conversation between him and his friends.
Yeah, so we only read to 20, but when I looked up, it says they were discussing stuff for 34 chapters.
Yeah, so
him and his friends.
Yeah. So chapter 3, I guess Job's like, wait a minute, man. He just, I think Job found out God is in charge of everything. He just realized it. Whether it's good or adversity, God is in charge. He rules. So chapter 3 was just kind of like that, and then his friends come and he talks about why was he born. Listen. At first I was like, man, this is rough, but you have to understand is what he's gone through. And we're going to touch on this later around the time frame that it's in. Also, that's Job 13. Chapter 3, he was just like, why, you know,
Why was I
why
born?
was I born, man? This is tough. He's not complaining. He's just realizing, right?
I think he's verbalizing
Yeah,
what he's experiencing.
like his pain.
Yeah, and so we had talked about how when we were reading this week, we were talking about how sometimes when you moan or groan or something,
Yeah,
even though it's not necessarily taking your pain away, it is doing something. I have read a study years ago where they talked about when you stub your toe and you scream out loud, like that's somehow helpful,
yeah,
right? It's like it doesn't really take the pain away, but I guess it gives you something to focus on.
yeah,
And I think sometimes as humans, we just want to acknowledge, right? We just want to either have our truth be acknowledged or have our ideas be validated, right?
yeah,
I think he's just saying, he's just putting into
yeah.
words what he's
How we feeling?
experiencing.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
But he definitely did say, "Oh, curse the day I was born.
yeah,
Why was I even born? If I have to go
yeah.
through this."
Makes sense. There's a lot of stuff going on in his life.
So his friends
Yeah,
were silent for 7 days. I think they were all silent the first 7 days that they
yeah,
got there.
yeah.
Then they start having these conversations, right?
Conversations are wild.
Yo, his friends were. This is where I want y'all to enter. I mean, hopefully you have already entered into the conversation. We want to hear all your comments. We want to hear all your thoughts about everything we're discussing. But I think our question for this week is going to come out of the friendships.
You'll see the questions and the polls. We're gonna.
Yeah. So I might not pronounce these correctly, but his friends' names were Bildad, Zophar, and Eliphaz.
Eliphaz. Yeah.
Right. So there's three. His boys came to see him. You know what I mean? And the first one that spoke, I think, was Eliphaz, the Temanite.
Yep.
And so they say, I guess, the Temanite, Eliphaz was the Temanite, Bildad was the Shunite, and Zophaz was the Namathite. I'm assuming this is where they came from, right? We call ourselves Americans, right? Because we're from America. Or we were born in America, but I'm thinking these are the lands, wherever a Shunite, he was from wherever land is named.
Yep.
So anyway, they came from their places, and the first thing that Eliphaz says is, if we dare to converse with you, will you be impatient or offended? And then he says, but who can restrain himself from speaking? They go on, each of them in their own ways, of basically accusing Job of, you must have sinned. Because this doesn't happen to people who didn't sin.
Yep.
Like, you must have done this.
Yeah.
You must have done something that made God punish you in this way.
Yes. And the reason I believe that they accused him, not saying they're wrong or right, I'm just talking about from their perspective of why. Mm-hmm. I think the timeline, this happened right after Moses. No, I'm sorry.
Well,
Noah.
Something I looked up, and I don't know if this is right, and this might go with what you're saying, said this happened around the time of Abraham. Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
This happened right around Abraham, right after Noah. God floods the earth.
Yeah.
Starts over. So God flooding the earth was really fresh. So they're like, if you sin, bad things happen to you. If you don't sin and righteous, nothing happens to you. Which is completely wrong, but I think Job was the first person to experience it, and this is unprecedented. So they don't know what to say or what to do. They're just going off of what, as we should not do. It's just going off of what you previously know.
Right.
So they were ignorant in their own right. So they're going off something that they think that they know.
Right.
When it's so further from the truth. And that I know that happens that happens today a lot. And I probably do it sometimes.
I'm reminded, listen, I think we all kind of do it in our own way. Yeah. But this reminds me of the cancel culture a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you don't even know the whole story, but you're going to cancel somebody. I mean, sometimes, whatever, people should be canceled, I guess. But, I mean, God doesn't cancel people. You always have the opportunity to repent and seek God's, forgiveness, and
Yes.
Jesus died so that we can be forgiven for our sins.
Yeah.
But I think what happens a lot with just humanity, just in our own humanness, is that we think we understand and therefore can cast judgment on other people. And so the whole purpose of them coming there, his friends, was to provide him some level of comfort. Hey dog, we here with you, we feel you, whatever you need, we got you, you know what I'm saying? That's what support would look like. You know what I'm saying? He still has a wife, he still has some servants that hasn't been killed. I'm imagining he still has the land, even though a lot of his livestock was killed, or all of it, I don't know. But the thing would be, we're here to comfort you. We're here to listen to you, right? It's like somebody coming to visit you in the hospital. If something happens to you and you get into the hospital, you're not expecting your friends to come and visit you and tell you why you deserve to be in the hospital. Like, dog, I told you shouldn't have done that. I imagine some people might say something like that if you did something. But in this instance, there was no evidence of Job doing something. So the only issue that I take with them assuming is that they have nothing to point to. It's like if you had been able to say that I saw you do this and this is probably why, right? But it's like being misunderstood like that has to be so frustrating, which is why they probably went back for 34 chapters back and forth, because it's like they're accusing him, like basically they're assuming that he's done something, yet they haven't seen him do something. So it's to deserve, right? They haven't seen him sin. So you're gonna go off of your assumption, and it's just so frustrating.
Yeah, they were going on him.
They were going on him hard,
calling him a fool.
Oh my gosh!
A sinner, and he's just like, man, y'all supposed to be here, supportive of me. And now this is it, right? So, not only has he lost everything, he's in physical pain, he can't sleep. It says that he has maggots on his body, or in his body.
So, I didn't see that part, but I might have just missed it.
He can't sleep. His wife has cursed him.
Wait, did his wife curse him?
Well, she said that you should curse the God that surely died.
Right. So I don't know if she cursed him, because I was trying to figure out if she was still around. While him and his friends were talking. In this day and age,
it's basically, I'm thinking his wife was like, I'm out.
Well, look. So in the beginning, when he said that to her, and in I guess in chapter 2,
hold fast to your integrity, curse God and die. Yeah.
Okay, when she said that, so I didn't see any other words from her after he responded to her. So I was like, where is she? Because he's having all this conversation with him and his friends, and I'm like, did she roll out or what? But then later it said he had said to his friends, like, my wife says my breath is repulsive or something, right? Because he was so sick. And you gotta think, if you got boils all over your body and your body is reacting to whatever's happening, right?
He might not be eating.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of things that go into it.
He did. I wanted to touch on this too. He did say that he couldn't sleep well.
Yeah, he's not getting sleep. He's tossing and turning.
Yeah. So you think if you're sick, the doctor a lot of times will tell you to get rest.
Yeah.
Right? And even, I know for sure, the few times that I thought I was dying, when I had food poisoning, oh my gosh.
Wow.
I was out.
I don't wish that on nobody.
Oh my gosh. It was the worst. And I just remember being on my bed, and I remember I had a BlackBerry at the time. So we know this is a while back. And I remember my BlackBerry falling off the side of the bed, in between the wall and the bed.
Sure.
And I remember thinking to myself, I don't need that. Yeah. I don't need that phone. Because if I get up, I'm probably going to have to throw up again. Yep. So I'm just going to lay in this diagonal position on my bed, because I feel like I'm dying. So that's probably the best thing I can kind of relate to Job on, is those times where I felt like I was dying from the inside out. And it's like, if somebody were there telling me that I probably deserve this because of something I did, you gotta go. That was another thing that kind of shocked me too, because he didn't say, why don't y'all just roll out? You know what I'm saying? Because I think that's probably what I would have said, but I think it was just probably the way things were then, that they wouldn't do that. And he even said, which I thought was really hilarious, the best way to say shut up that I've ever heard. Where was it? He was like, where is it? I put it in my notes.
What chapter is it? I
It
think it's
is
like in the teens.
right. So Job 10:13,
Yeah,
he was
yeah, yeah.
basically like FML. This was Job was like,
Yeah.
forget this. Like my life is, crazy.
Yeah.
And then he got harsh words from his friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then Job 13:5. Where's Job 13:5?
Yeah.
So we're skipping over some. You need to go and read it and see what his friends were actually saying.
His friends were saying they called him a fool. They called him a sinner. They accused him of sin. It's basically repetitive. It's not like it's just like Job will respond, and Job will say God is almighty, God's good and bad, and one of his friends will be like, "But you're still a sinner," and it's just like, "What? You're wicked," and it's a constant conversation where they're going on. That's what it is.
I would actually
you
need to read it, and I think our question comes out of there. Here's what I would want to know from you guys. In the times that you've been misunderstood, I think everybody's probably can relate to that. And you may have had friends around you who didn't support you, or family, or whoever you were around who didn't support you. What were you going through in that time? How did you feel? What would you have said to them? You know what I mean? Knowing what you know now, right? So I want you to go back and read these conversations that Job had with his friends, and I want to know how would you react, and base it on something that happened to you if you can, but how would you react to what is happening if your friends were talking to you like this, or your support system wasn't really supporting you? I'll tell you how Job reacted, which was amazing. This is the best part. Like, I was so entertained by this, and this is because I'm an ignorant. He said, who was he talking to when he said this? He was talking to
all of them. You say he answers his critics. I think he's talking to all of them.
I guess he must have been talking to all of them.
Yeah.
But he said in 13:5, "Oh, that you would be completely silent, and that silence would be your wisdom." Basically, oh, that you would be silent. Oh, just shut up. Yeah. And maybe then we'll think that you're wiser than you are. You know what I mean? If you would just shut up. I was like, you know what? That's a better way to say shut up. So the next time I want to say shut up to somebody, which I never say really, I would sub in these words. Yeah. Oh, that you would just be silent. It's like a wish. Yeah. It's like you can't get mad at somebody that says that. What do you say? Oh, that you would just be silent.
You need to be silent too. Like,
oh my gosh.
Well, there's no comeback from it, because
there is no comeback. That's a nice way to say it. I think the majority of people will be like, "What? Did she just tell me shut up?" Yeah, just tell me. Oh, that I would be silent.
Be silent.
What is that? What?
But then why are they thinking they're silent?
Yeah. So anyway, so that was an interesting part. Then we move into more harsh words from Zophar. Yo.
Oh, remember at 14? This is a good one. Where Job, he was just like, there's no hope for him in the afterlife.
Oh yeah.
And I think what he's just expressing what he thinks death is. Mm-hmm. You know, he's saying a prayer. Is that? No, yeah, that's 14. Yeah, he's just like, he's in despair. Which, listen, he still hasn't blamed God. Now, all this is going on. He's just like, there's no hope for me, and it's okay, God. Like, this is what he's saying.
A part of his defense to his friends too was that this is just what God is doing to me, and He knows that I haven't sinned. Yep. Right. And so that's why it was kind of perplexing to me as to why he didn't go and ask God. He does at some point, but before he did that, before we read that, I was what is he doing? Like, why don't he just go to God and ask him to either make the stop or ask him why, right? Because really and truly, obviously God controls everything, but he gave permission to Satan to do this to him. But I think maybe at that point, people weren't really aware of Satan like that, right? So they just assumed that everything came from God. Which, I mean, and I guess it does, but in this particular instance, a point is being proven. And the devil was the one, Satan was the one that was causing all of this ruckus, right? With the boils and stuff like that. So, even though God allowed him to endure it, it was like, I think Job was just like, he had given up. Like, you know what, just go ahead and take me out.
Yeah, and 14 was basically saying, I know that when I die, God's going to hold me favorably. What? After all this is happening, he's still like, I know I'm going to die, but God's still going to hold me favorably. I am that confident that God has my back after I die. Man, it's deep. I'm telling you, man. Job is like, listen, guys. God still loves me regardless of what's happening on this earth. That's very difficult to do.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie.
It is. Especially when you have 3 haters in your midst.
And then his friends keep going at him again.
Keep going at him. Again. Somebody said...
Call him a fool.
Should a wise man such as you utter such windy and vain knowledge? Yeah. And then he's like, what do you know that we don't know? Yeah. Here's the thing, too, which was mentioned further in the beginning. Yeah. They were like, oh, Job, you normally are the one who lifts us up. I'm like, oh, now you're in pain? This isn't like you. Yeah. Now you're talking about how much you're in pain? And it's like, what happened to all of that knowledge of who he was, right? Wouldn't you then just assume that, wow, you've never gone through this before, but you still who I've known you to be, so we're kind of like going through this together. I still believe that you're the good person that I always thought you were, right? Because you didn't see them do nothing wrong. It's having somebody's back, like vouching for them, saying, you know what, they're going through a hard time right now, but all the other times that I've encountered them or the person I know them to be is good. Like, why would you just jump on the other side of the fence and be like, oh, you must have messed up.
Y'all gotta look seriously. His friends, he's at his wit's end.
He's going through it physically, emotionally,
mentally, and they're just going on him. And we're gonna discuss the last 3 because you already touched on 16 where you said that he confronted his friends to uplift him. I think you just said that.
Well, yeah. So Eliphaz was the Temanite. He was basically saying, should a wise man such as you utter windy and vain knowledge? Yeah. That was in 15 too. Yeah. In 16, Job finally says, I've heard many such things, wearisome and miserable. Comforters are you all. Y'all are horrible comforters. Yeah, you're supposed to be over here having my back, and you're horrible. Yeah. You're horrible at doing that. No. Continue.
I was thinking. Then in 18, this is his friend Bildad said that he was wicked. He told Job that Job was wicked because of Job's misfortune. How can you tell somebody that? Oh man, you lost all your kids because you're wicked. Listen to how that sounds.
Oh, now see, I know what you're talking about.
That is in 18. That is crazy. Telling somebody they're wicked because of life happens.
Sorry for that. That's a siren in the background.
Yeah, DC guys. Anyway.
So what's happening though is that he talked about his kids. I thought that was horrible. He's like, that's why that's why your kids died or something like that, right? I don't want to. I'm paraphrasing here, but he was just like, surely such are the dwellings of the wicked and the ungodly. And such is the place of him who does not know or recognize or honor God. Meanwhile, whole time, all he's doing is saying what he's experiencing. He's never once said any cursing of God. He's always holding fast to his faith. So it's like they're actually, at that point I felt that was just too much because he's putting words in his mouth. Now that was right at the end of chapter 18. That one that I just read was 18:21. And then Job says, how long will you torment and exasperate me and crush me with words?
Yeah. What's that, 19?
That's 19. Yeah.
And
2.
Here's this. After all of this, Job says, God is my only hope, and God will stand on the earth and testify on my behalf. Told his friends that, like, God still got me.
And
God
he said,
still got it.
That's true. I don't know. I think it's before. What chapter was that?
That was 19. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So in here in 19:4, this is what I was talking about. He was like, if it were true that I have erred, my error would remain with me, and I would be conscious of it.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're calling me a sinner, you know what I'm saying. So that I guess at this point he was just like, forget y'all. Y'all are going to be haters, but God is going to be there for me.
Yeah. And so 20 is just his friends going on him again. So far.
So I guess the poll question is, I mean, I think a good poll question is,
you got it.
What would you have said to your friends? Would you have kicked them out? Would you have let them stay? Or would you have done something else? Meanwhile, meantime, you're in pain. You've lost your kids, you've lost your livestock, your servants aren't.
Your wife isn't there.
Your wife is wilding out, talking crazy. And your friends are supposed to be there to comfort you. And meanwhile,
wife or husband, because it's
right. Yeah. True.
Dual question. Yeah.
What would you say to your friends? Would you let them stay? Would you? What would you do? That's the poll question. I have to figure out how that works out. But I'll make sure that it's available in the description box.
Probably YouTube and Facebook. The poll. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got nosy and I looked ahead to see at least I'm not gonna say what happened because we're gonna read.
I want to read it. I did. I looked at some stuff.
Yeah. I just had to.
Yeah.
I just know, guys. This stuff is riveting.
Yeah. I think that 38 is finally
so I wanted to see kind of how this.
We're not even gonna get
because when you're going through something like that, I just had to see if it was what was gonna happen. So I didn't look at everything, so I will still be, surprised at the details, but I just had to go and see if what I thought was gonna happen.
You like me, man, at the spoilers. I love it. Okay, guys?
I'm not gonna put any spoilers in here,
When I see a movie, sometimes I will, but I will watch. I'm into Marvel, and I'll watch all the Easter eggs and right before the movie. I almost basically knows what happens in Spider-Man from the breakdown of the previews. Yeah. And I just want to see it for myself. Yeah. I don't mind watching spoilers because it's already happened. Now sometimes people are surprised.
No, you were upset about one movie. You were like, I can't look at social media all weekend until I see this movie because somebody's going to spoil it for me. It was recently. Was it The Matrix? I don't know.
No.
It was something. I can't remember what it is. But anyway,
was it a show?
I agree. Some spoilers are good, and it just gets you more excited. Hopefully, that's what this is.
Yeah.
Hopefully, that's what this conversation is. Yeah. I'm really curious of you guys' take on it.
Yes.
I want to know what you think. I want to know how it relates to something that you have gone through personally, or maybe somebody that you've witnessed go through something similar. Not like they have boils on their body, but just in the way of what he's going through and then being misunderstood, having people who were supposed to be comforting him not doing a good job of it. And I just want to know about your experiences and what you think, what your takeaways are. Make sure, like we always say, don't take our word for it. Go to the source. Read your Bible. Because we really want to have this be a conversation. Yeah. Some of the things and opinions that we have might not be shared amongst everyone. So we really want to know, what did you think? Because maybe that is an opportunity for us to go back and re-examine too. Yep. I do want to say a couple of things before we end out the show. First of all, thank you for listening to my dryer go off 14 times. I don't know how many times it's gone off and all the sirens. And we're just starting out, so we're going to make some mistakes, and we appreciate your patience with us. Yeah. I want to let you know where you can find us. We're basically everywhere. I won't say everywhere because we're not on Tumblr or, you know what I'm saying. But we are on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We're going through the motions of getting on every podcast, wherever podcasts are available.
We're on Spotify.
We are on Spotify. We're on, it says we're on Apple, but I have some technical things to go through. But in the next few weeks, you'll be able to find us.
Yeah. You will be able to.
But for now, you can go to our podcast page. Yep. And you can listen to our podcast, or you can continue to watch us on YouTube. However you're hearing this, you can continue to listen to us that way. So, but also our link is going to be in our description box to our link tree where you can see where to find us everywhere. If you follow us on Instagram, you're going to have to type out, is it crazy or is it God? If you go to Facebook, it's the same thing. Facebook.com/is it crazy or is it God?
Yep.
And that's because we really want to go by the moniker and the hashtag IICIIG, but that's not always available on other platforms. So some places we just spelled it out because why not? Like, that's what we're here for anyway, right? So if you want to go to Linktree, which is linktr.ee/IICIIG, which stands for Is It Crazy or Is It God? You'll see all of our links to where you can find us on other platforms.
All this will be in the description.
Yes, I'll make sure
it's in the description.
It's in the description.
We got some feedback.
Please like, comment, subscribe.
Please do.
Wherever you are. If you're not following us on one platform, you should follow us on other platforms because we're giving different excerpts and things on all the different platforms. So if you just follow us on one platform, we appreciate it. We're grateful. But if you want to follow us on other platforms, go and look for us everywhere that you participate in social media. And let us know where you are that we're not. So we want to be there too.
Yeah.
I did want to end out, just not like with a shout out, but just kind of some useful information. We always say very honestly that we are not experts. We are just regular people reading the Bible. We want you to join us.
Experts.
But in this sort of opportunity that we have here, I want to give a highlight to people who are experts. A couple people who we listen to on a regular basis who are experts in on the Bible and do know exactly what they're talking about and have done the years of research. So, you want to start?
Yeah. Listen to United Baptist.
Yes. Shout out to Pastor Pope.
Pastor Pope, Sharif, Damien.
Yes.
If I'm missing any names, my apologies. But I listen to them a lot.
And we'll link this. I'll make sure that we link this below.
And I also listen to Pastor Stephen Furtick.
Yes, another good one.
Elevation. I listen to that quite
Pastor
frequently.
John Jenkins. He does some really good Bible studies. Pastor John K. Jenkins.
Yeah.
I can't remember his church name.
First
Glenarden, right?
Baptist of Glenarden.
Okay, yeah, he has some really good, specifically his Bible studies. I like to listen to his.
Yeah, his Bible studies are. He gets really
in
depth. So those are the three I listen to. But I listen to, of course, United, and then I listen to Pastor Furtick, and I listen to it. I've gotten to the habit of not going to church. Well, because of COVID, we used to listen to it on Sundays. I listen to it every day.
Yeah.
You know.
Every day.
Every day I listen to it. Before anything else, I listen to Pastor Pope. Shout out to Sharif. I gotta listen to the Galatians 1:22. I'll listen to that tomorrow morning. I like to listen to it right before work because that's sometimes frustrating.
Yeah, work could be something else.
Oh, let me get here, God.
Okay.
Right before I get into it.
So I have a few shout outs myself on people that I listen to the point in us sharing this is that they are experts and also they're really enjoyable to listen to.
Yep. Especially
the people that James just mentioned. I listen a lot to whatever I can find from Priscilla Schreier. I hope I'm not saying her name improperly. She's an amazing person, and the way that she breaks things down sort of present day is really immaculate. Also, you mentioned Pastor Stephen Furtick. I listen to him, as well as I like to listen to T.D. Jakes and Sarah Jakes Roberts, his daughter.
Yeah.
That's Bishop T.D. Jakes. Everybody probably knows who he is. But his daughter has written a couple books, Sarah Jakes Roberts, and I think she just gives a really fresh perspective on the word, being like having come up, being exposed to the word, but also she's gone through some really tough situations, and I think her perspective is so unique, but it's still so, it's just so relevant to the way that we live. And the sort of the things that we are going through present day. A lot of times, not to take anything away from the older people, but sometimes we feel like older people can't relate to us. So I really love listening to Sarah Jakes Roberts and her perspectives on things. It's just a fresh perspective. And then also one of my ultimate speaking of Pastor Stephen Furtick, his wife Holly, First Lady Holly Holly Furtick, she's a beast. She has this one on the Hope Cycle. Oh, yeah. That joint is fire. I've listened to that a couple times. And then another person, my go-to is Joyce Meyer. Yeah. She's such she's got grit. She's so real. It's like she'll say something and it just is so funny. Like she'll just be real. She's honest and she's not necessarily like sugarcoating anything, which none of these people are really, which is refreshing. But I really enjoy Joyce Meyer. So I enjoy all the people too that James mentioned. Yeah. That kind of goes without saying. We listen to a lot of stuff together. We discuss a lot. But yeah, those are some experts. So yeah. If you want to go and check them out, I'll try to find links for everybody below. I'm pretty sure I can. Yeah. I know I have the link to UBC. But some of the other people, I'll just go and search and just try to find something and put it in the description box. But thank you so much again for joining us. We want you to participate in the conversation, read your Bibles, even if you haven't gotten around to reading it yet. We'd love to have your thoughts on what you think, what questions you might be thinking, and all of that stuff. So thanks so much again for watching, and we'll see you again next week for another episode of Is It Crazy or Is It God?
Peace.